Identity is truly about being connected to source, being connected to the divine, being connected to your higher self. This is what everybody means when they speak about identity shifting. It is about understanding more and more and more, or coming into more and more and more consciousness of who you truly are. So, I already created something. If you're new here, go and check out my other video where I actually created this framework. And I thought, actually, like, this framework really says a lot, or maybe it all, in understanding the bigger picture. Okay, so stay tuned. It's about identity and you stepping in to the identity that is able to create, hold, sustain, and grow the life that you truly desire. Because manifesting the life of your dreams, creating success, leadership, money, wealth, reputation, legacy is all about starting with yourself, aka stepping into the identity that is capable. And I want to show you a little, because I know I can get very much back into explaining all of it, but I want to give you a little overview of what we have here. Again, go check out the other video, that is the one before this, where I came up with this framework. So this framework shows you where we are in the world right now in 2026, and my worldview, or a larger worldview. Let's just say that. Okay. So here you see the circle, and the circle represents the earth. This circle represents the feminine, the earth, the natural world. It represents ancient, timeless wisdom, aka the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, other traditions and methodologies or mythologies, right? African mythologies, Greek mythologies, Roman mythologies, all of those really ancient stories, even beyond those that we commonly know. That is something that is so deep, so ancient, where God was a woman in many of those even pre-Abrahamic religions. When God was a woman, it's a whole book about that, right? So we go back in time until timelessness. It's not about time, it's about everlasting, universal law. And universal law is not the universe, right? People always say the universe, and then we think about something big. I always want to give a spin on the word universe and universal law. Universe and universal means applicable to everything. If I speak about a universal principle, it is a principle that does not only apply to me or you as a human, but also applies to the natural world, to plants, maybe to elements, right? To the cycles, to the seasons. It is a universally applicable law that is, yeah, transferable to different scenarios, lives, people. And I believe this is one thing that we want to come to also in this understanding of God, right? As I just mentioned, people like to argue about everything, especially religion, legacy, inheritance, culture, tradition. I am all for individualized cultures, right? We don't want to put everything in one pot. No, variety, diversity is necessary and amazing and wonderful and beautiful. And at the same time, I believe that if we can all agree that ultimately all religions lead to one universal truth, and that is that we are all divine and that we are all living under universal principles, which are also scientific principles, like gravity and many other scientific principles that are proven. And many of those universal laws that have been associated with the realm of magic, occultism, which I believe is absolutely real. But also today, in this day and age, many of those spiritual, unexplainable, magical things can be explained with quantum physics, quantum science, the quantum field, which is ultimately what people have always said what God is. God is omnipresent, omnipotent, everywhere, all at once. Okay, so you get what I am hinting towards here. All right, not even hinting, very clear. So this is more of the ancient and the buried, all right, the buried but very omnipresent truth that is always here. And then on top of that, and I like that in this last video that I made, I spoke about that already, and it came to me while I was speaking. This is what Clarissa Pincola Estes said and called it the overculture. The overculture, the dominant overculture over over the natural world, over the ancient, more connected, more feminine, more collaborative, more community based, more rooted with the earth, with the soil, with the seasons. You get it. This is the subculture, right? Or that is the overculture. And I always say it is important for us, especially as feminine women and also feminine women of the global majority, which are brown women, right? Indigenous women, ancient women, women connected to a bloodline that is not necessarily only rooted in the Western world. Okay, especially for this kind of woman, I believe everybody can learn from me, but especially this kind of woman, you, yeah, is that we need to understand that that is who we truly are, where we come from. And this here, the overculture, is, and I'm going to break it down what that means. The overculture is the pyramid system, right? That is the matrix. This is the hierarchy, the masculine system, the man made power structure, which is capitalism, which is rooted in colonialism, okay, in suppression, in exploitation, in domination, in extraction, in wiping out, right? All of the things that the colonial masters had to do in order to get to the natural resources of the indigenous land, from the land to the food, to the minerals, to the water, to the gold, to the cacao, to all of the natural resources, also natural resources in terms of human resources, right? So the colonial master had to come and implement those systems of attraction, making them superior and creating a hierarchy that dehumanizes everyone who is not the mainly white slave master or white colonial imperial master. So this is where capitalism comes from, all right? And with that goes hand in hand the power structures of patriarchy, also the man, the male, the masculine attributes being more worthy or being more valued in this overculture than feminine principles, which are not necessarily connected to the sex, but the overall energy that is many times also connected to the sex. But not only, man and woman have feminine and masculine energy. Patriarchy is the dominance of the masculine principle above the feminine principle. And then racism, of course, as I said, it goes all hand in hand. Racism is a man-made power structure of a hierarchical ranking of skin color and phenotype. The darker you are, the um, more connected you are to the actual richest soils of the planet. But in this twisted worldview, race, the darker you are, was put to the bottom of the hierarchy. Okay, I think it's very important that I always refer back to it because that is the lens in which I deconstruct everything else also, and that's what we're going to come back to is identity. Okay, so with that being said, this is the worldview. This is the worldview that has been established. And I always like to say that we all need to look at that because it is the water that we swim in. Everybody has been indoctrinated, brainwashed into believing in male superiority. Everyone has been brainwashed into kind of believing in white superiority, right? And we have been believing that classism, like the people, the ruling class, this is where we all want to be. Otherwise, we are not valuable individuals, AKA, it's a process of dehumanization, right? Putting people that are not that, not the white man, on a level of animal, right? I'm speaking in very extremes, right? Just to make the point clear that these have been the world views that we have been swimming in. And this is what I try to paint on here with the green circle. Like, this is a world view that we all want to free ourselves from, depending on where you come from, depending on where you are on your journey. And especially like me, I have invested in multiple trainings and certifications in becoming a life coach, a transformational life coach, which comes with understanding human nature, with understanding the body, the nervous system, the brain functions, but also the higher mental faculties, which is not the brain, but more of the mind, right? And the mind is not localized, is not the brain. The mind is the field, is the consciousness, right? So I've learned about that. I've learned about transformational principles in terms of understanding limiting beliefs. And that's one of the biggest things. Understanding limiting beliefs, limitations, right? Limitations that are preventing you from creating the life of your dreams. And this is what we are going to speak about today in terms of identity. Okay. So, because I always say, follow me, don't listen or don't look at the other things that I already wrote down here. So the thing here is, we all live, you and me, we live in this overculture. We live in a capitalistic, patriarchal, racist society that is slowly falling apart, slowly being deconstructed by activism, right? By people who are actually speaking up and creating more awareness on different fronts, right? So everybody is taking one part and deconstructing it, different people in different arenas of life. And one thing that I want to create for us here today is this. Okay, so this is the identity. And when I speak about identity, I am speaking, and I will not hold back anymore, even though we could speak about psychology and we could speak about the brain and we could speak about scientific proof of how you can shift your nervous system. All of that is also part of my work, but I want to go deeper because it is about taking you deeper. And I'm not going to do it in a linear way. I'm going to sprinkle in what is necessary, what I feel called to speak about daily. All right. So if that's interesting to you, how you can ultimately create the life of your dreams, stay tuned, like, subscribe, join my membership, the Original Sanctuary. You find the links in the description box down below. So when we speak about identity, the thing here is that we have all been indoctrinated by this system for centuries, not only you and me, but also our parents, right? Our fathers, our mothers, all of our tree of life, our inheritance ancestor tree. I don't know how it's called, but the people that came before us, they have also been believing those things. And depending on where they were on their ladder, on their way to success, on the climb, right, in terms of money, or even, yeah, like my father was black, my mom is white, and depending on where you come from, like, everyone carried a piece of the lie everyone carried a piece of the lie of you're not good enough. You're not worthy. You are meant to be a slave. You are meant to be a workforce. You are meant to be a workhorse, right? Things like that. Again, take it with a grain of salt. I'm going to speak very bluntly so we can all get straight to the point because it's a big topic. So, the thing is, in terms of breaking generational curses, what are we doing? We are freeing ourselves from the lies of limitation. We're freeing ourselves from the lies of not being good enough to whatever, have the body, the relationships, the life, the business, the prices, the income, the finances that we truly desire to live our purpose, right? I ultimately am here to help you find and live your purpose and also make money doing what you love. That is what I'm ultimately here for. And in order to do that, we have to get rid of these internalized lies. And how we do that is by coming to this point very shortly. I always like to say there are different levels of consciousness. And the first level of consciousness is a victim mentality in terms of, oh my God, life is so hard. Nobody loves me. I didn't get like the rich parents or this or blah, blah, blah. My parents were bad. I don't come from this or that. Okay, good. Most people don't come from that, right? But you can always change your consciousness. So, the first level of consciousness is the victim consciousness. The next level of consciousness is the buy me consciousness, which is all about the workforce, I would say. It's all about learning, school, degrees, certifications, climbing up the ladder, skills, right? Getting into a job, getting a profession, right? Degree, profession, then it is about status. It's about social belonging. It's about status symbols. It's about consumerism as well, right? Status symbols, buying expensive things, looking like you belong, looking like you have something going on, maybe buying the house, buying the car. I know for us, I'm a millennial, like those things are no longer really the things that we aspire to. Like, even though we do aspire to them, but we know that it is not necessarily the only way that we actually truly want. That's what I mean. Like, it's not our ultimate life's a blueprint anymore. But I think it's still very common to think about life like that, right? Climbing the ladder and looking successful and becoming successful more on the outer, right? That is all about this level. It is all about this level, the by me. It's the doing, it's the masculine, it's the force, it's the proving, it's the power, it's the bravado. Like, that is where we are mainly in. If you are, again, this also is already a level of privilege. I'm not bashing that. Like, I'm very grateful that I had the chance to study and to continue to study and to, right, to learn and to gain more skills and to learn about all of the things that I know and to go to school and to travel. I'm very, very grateful for that, right? But this is also very, very masculine, and it can leave us empty. And I know that's the kind of person that I speak to, right? You have done that. I also like to call it you're capable. You've proven yourself, like you kind of proven to your inner child that you're capable of surviving in this world, more or less. Okay, we all get bruised. Don't get it twisted. Okay, but the next level here is the through me. And this is where, and now we're speaking about identity. In this level, this is where all of the personal realization comes in. Also, I always like to use different models. This is also where the Maslow pyramid of hierarchy comes in terms of self actualization, right? You want to self actualize. That means you actually want to live your dreams. I think that's it, right? Self actualization means you want to live your dreams, meaning you want to turn your inner world, what you hope, what you wish, your values, your dreams, your vision, your feeling, your skills, your capabilities. You want to use all of that that you've accumulated, and you know that this is inside of you, and maybe only you, right? And that is the thing that we need to change. We want to take it out. We want to bring it out. We want to get clear on the inner world, and then we want to manifest it. That is ultimately what manifestation is about, is to create a harmonious inner world with the outer world that you have control over creating. And I always say that that is where you need to learn to open up. And now let me stop preaching, right? As I like to say, sometimes I have to be very honest with you. Sometimes I'm still thinking if that's too much. But ultimately, everything that I'm about is spiritual. I have always been spiritually guided my whole life since I was a little girl, maybe around 3, 4. I have always had a spiritual eye. I have always had a spiritual sense. I have always been able to see through more of the facade, right? Because the by me, can we can say that is also a level of facade, and that's okay. Like, that's not a bad thing, right? Even the body and the way we look and the makeup and many things can also be a facade, and that's fine. That's not, it doesn't have to mean that it's inauthentic, right? It's not in alignment, no. But there's more. That's just what I want to say. There's more. And as I said, most of the people that come to me, they have kind of excelled, or they have mastered a certain level in this field, in this level of consciousness. But what they are seeking is God. What they are seeking is fulfillment. What they are seeking is purpose. What they're feeling and seeking is an inner resonance, like an inner world, your dreams, your wishes, your desires, your inner pictures, your visions, right? Whatever way life communicates with you. Some people are more of the visual type. I am a visionary, like literally. That's why I always will create like frameworks, because I see things like the way I want to explain it. I see it, and also what I see in the outer world. Like I see things. So I see things, I feel things. Some people hear things, right? Some people smell things, right? Like there are all these different senses. But what I want to say is, it is about your identity. It's truly about getting rid of all of those man made limitations, because the class that you were born into and you thinking your identity is tied to that is a limitation, right? If you think you're coming from working class, you are not able to be part of the wealthy, right? You're not able to become a millionaire because that's not where you belong. Things like that. Identity, belonging is also very much connected, right? But it's a lie, to be very clear, right? Not belonging to the right class doesn't mean that you have to stay where you come from. You don't, right? But it also doesn't mean that you have to abandon the people where you come from. But that's a very nuanced conversation. Same thing with patriarchy, right? You may be thinking, depending on how you were raised, right? Maybe your brother got favored, or something like that, or your dad wished you were a man, something like that, or but you're a woman, right? Patriarchy, the internalized, as I said, patriarchy is pedestalizing, putting male attributes higher than feminine. This is unfortunately still the world that we live in. Women don't get as much money for their natural talents than men. That's true. Emotional work, care work, home, everything that has to do with the home. We know that conversation, right? And that is a thing, right? Male attributes, male, maybe more natural ways of being also correlate with jobs where men can perform with more money. Okay, so that is the patriarchal system, which is a lie, right? Feminine qualities, feminine attributes, feminine natural talents are now becoming even more of the higher paid um, jobs because we're